Welcome, everyone. AT&T is fined for slowing down service for users on legacy unlimited data plans, while Sprint says it will stop throttling their heavy users to avoid potential net neutrality violations. BlackBerry is rumored to be considering putting Android on some of its phones. More information is released about the OnePlus project. Google's Android One program is hitting some snags in the developing market it is trying to conquer. Sharp's first 4K Android TV sets are hitting stores, and NVIDIA's 4K Android TV console is shipping. Google releases a tool to help you pick the perfect Android phone, while Apple urges you to recycle it after switching to iOS. Adobe ports some Creative Cloud apps to Android. What took them so long, you ask? Those stories and more tonight on Our Android Week. Welcome, Alan Furstenberg.
Hey, Dan.
All right, so beginning here, AT&T is fined for slowing some, for I guess back in the day, they would, they were slowing everybody down dramatically once you hit like 2 gigs a month. And then Sprint says that they're going to stop throttling. They were throttling heavy users, but only in congested areas. So like if you were at the football game and everyone's doing stuff, they would throttle you. But if you were in a rural area where there was no congestion, they wouldn't throttle you, even if you were a heavy user. I'm a heavy user. But AT&T was I guess, throttling or not throttling. They were straight up slowing you down once you hit a certain level. And I think the FCC, after the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and now the Communications Commission, said they couldn't do that because I guess there wasn't transparency. Whereas Sprint is doing it, they had transparency, but they think it's a violation of net neutrality. So these are kind of related, but not really. What are your thoughts on this? And who do you use? You're T-Mobile, right?
I use T-Mobile, correct. I think Sprint is doing this because they're worried about getting smacked with the network neutrality rules, and justly so, because that's exactly what this is meant to do. And AT&T is fighting back, saying, no, 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 no. Our customers are smarter than that. They know that when we say unlimited, you don't really mean unlimited. I mean, most people don't own a dictionary these days. So they don't really know what unlimited means.
Yeah, so you can come to the all-you-can-eat crab leg buffet unless you're a fat person, and then,
Well,
but
that's
enough. You've eaten enough crab legs. Go home now.
Yeah. I think AT&T is getting justly smacked down on this. We tried companies for creating legalese that makes a mess out of trying to understand it, and have advertising that is patently false. And that's exactly what AT&T did.
And that's a true example that I gave. There's a restaurant here, a Greek guy owned it. Oh, still owns a building, but 20 years ago he did that. He had all-you-can-eat crab legs, and there was a fairly large couple there, and they, I guess, hadn't eaten for a few days, and they were just getting the crab legs, and he finally came out, enough, and kicked them out, took their money. All right, so the biggest change really in the net neutrality rules that they came out with was that it did not apply, or that it did apply to mobile, because they had specifically been exempt from a lot of the previous incarnations of this.
Yep.
So there you have it. Okay, BlackBerry is rumored to be considering putting Android on some of its phones. I had my BlackBerry sitting here somewhere, and I swear to God, it's got a fantastic keyboard. So on the one hand, I would say this would be great, and it might sell. On the other hand, they've got a lot of developers who have been investing years in the BlackBerry platform. And what are your thoughts on this as a developer and as a consumer of phones?
I think if they had done this a year or two ago, maybe they could have pulled it off. Now, a lot harder to sell. It's too little, too late. On the other hand, 2 years ago, everyone I knew with a BlackBerry, and I knew quite a few people with BlackBerries, were clutching onto them desperately. And now they've all abandoned BlackBerry. Half of them went to Android, half of them went to iOS. If if BlackBerry wanted to keep them as a customer, they needed to have done something long ago.
Are you rounding? I mean, didn't 0.4% go to Windows Phone?
No.
Smack. Okay. Did you ever own a BlackBerry?
Nope.
They're good. Okay, so you shared this with me today. Some more information has been released about the OnePlus project. It's the
Yeah.
cyanogen
What?
phone.
No.
Oh, I stand corrected again on the same topic.
um, the OnePlus One runs CyanogenMod, but the OnePlus Two probably isn't going to run CyanogenMod, since OnePlus and Cyanogen had kind of a falling out. But OnePlus has slowly started releasing information about the OnePlus Two. And the news that was released today was that it's going to be the first consumer phone on the market to have the USB-C connector as its connector and charging port. So it's going to be the first one to hit the market with the new charging port.
Now, what? Okay, first of all, you have a OnePlus One, correct?
I have a OnePlus One currently, yes.
And what's your quick? I mean, you love it, or right?
I love it. Well, let's put it this way. One of the things I got while I was in San Francisco recently was this Asus Zenfone, which is a pretty nice phone. I've been using it the past couple of weeks, and it's a pretty nice phone. But I'm probably going to give this one to my father and go back to my OnePlus One.
Okay, split that up to hardware build versus the cyanogen.
Cyanogen adds, now that Cyanogen finally released their Lollipop version, which was nice of them to do eventually, Lollipop has some major flaws, and Cyanogen did not fix all of those flaws, which is kind of disappointing. Whereas Asus and their version of Android did fix at least a couple of those flaws. That said, the hardware is a nice, zippy, it's got a nice feel to it. It's got plenty of memory on the model that I have. It feels comfortable. I like the textured back to hold it. The Asus has very clever arrangement of the power button and the volume button. It's got a really decent camera. But for me, the Cyanogen the OnePlus One with Cyanogen just feels like a better integration for what I do. Whereas I think Asus's modifications will be fine for my father. I think he'll love them.
Okay, so I'm now the other thing here is USB Type C, you said?
You bet.
Okay, I'm familiar with USB 1, 2, and 3, USB 3.0. I'm familiar with the Apple thing versus the Android thing.
Well, let's be clear about the Apple thing. Apple is getting ready to abandon it. That's pretty obvious.
It's called Lightning.
It's either yes.
It's a thing you can plug in either way and it works.
Yes, they're getting ready to abandon that.
Really?
Yeah.
How come?
Because they're moving towards USB-C.
Oh, so we'll be back, or we'll be at a place where everyone uses the same thing.
Yep. Well, let's put it this way. We know that on the new MacBook Air, whichever MacBook they released their incredibly low end thing that's trying to compete with the Chromebook at only 5 times the price. On that thing that they released at the end of last year, it was the first announced PC to have a USB-C port on it. And then 2 days later, the new Google Pixel came out. That was the first hardware that was shipping with USB-C. So now it sounds like the OnePlus 2 will be the first phone shipping with USB-C.
Does it have the one thing I like about the Apple thing, the Lightning plug, is that you can put it in either way.
Plugs in both ways.
Okay,
Plugs
so
in
it's
both
the same way.
Yep.
Okay, cool, excellent. So,
and everything is moving to this. Any phone that gets let's put it this way: if there's a phone this October, November that releases with micro USB, forget it. You can already consider that phone a dinosaur. Micro USB is going to be history within a year.
okay.
And good riddance.
Now the Okay, with the USB plug, there's the end that plugs into your phone, and then there's the standard USB sized thing that plugs into your computer or your car jack, your 12
Yep.
volt.
Same,
That end's
same
the
thing.
same.
Same thing.
So my existing thing in my car with the 2 USB slots to plug cables in, that'll still work. It's just the cable will have to be
Yep.
changed.
Yep.
Okay.
But you'll also have the ability to have USB-C on both ends. So eventually, those will start switching to USB-C as well. This means that on a Chromebook Pixel, a new Chromebook Pixel, you'll be able to plug it in on one side with the USB-C and plug in your phone on the other side with the USB-C. Even better, you'll be able to start having phones or other devices that have large batteries in them that will be the charger, not the chargee. So your phone battery can now charge another device using USB-C.
It's faster.
Yes, it's much faster. Actually, I'm not sure it's much faster than USB 3.0.
What is the
main importance about USB-C is the connector.
the Thunderbolt connection that Apple uses that lets you go unit to unit and plug them in
Yes.
daisy chained, etc. That's dramatically faster than any USB version, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's more like a hard drive speed, internal hard drive speed.
It's actually more like, I mean, it's faster than that even. It's meant to drive monitors.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's badass. Okay.
Yeah, but it's got other limitations.
And on this sort of, but the charging speed you get from an iPhone or an iPad, a new one, that just charge really, really fast. Are the new Android phones and this OnePlus, or is that a function of, is that an Apple thing, or is that all the new ones are going to be fast like that?
Well, I believe my OnePlus One charges to like 60% in about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I might have those numbers slightly off, but it does rapid charging for a good portion of it very quickly. And it's incredible on the battery life. I usually get about 2 days worth of 2 days out of my battery.
Am I imagining this, or does it seem like the rapid charge is up till somewhere in the 90s and then it's slower the last few?
I thought it was somewhere in the 80s, but yes, that's exactly how it works.
Okay. Is that just to save the battery, or is that, when does it go from rapid to trickle, and why?
It goes from rapid to trickle because my understanding, and I'll admit I do not have full knowledge of battery life. Maybe somebody will comment on this. Hint, hint, hint. Is that it has to do with preserving the battery and, safety reasons, not causing a fire.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. We're for no fire. Okay, so next, Sharp's first 4K Android TV sets are hitting stores. NVIDIA's 4K Android TV console is shipping. It's finally a thing. I remember we had a conversation about 4K, and I said, when I see these things in Walmart, I'll know it's a thing. And Costco and Walmart, right? So now I see them in Costco and my local Walmart. There's 6 to 8 4K TVs. It's still a minority of the total number, but there's $500 and some 4K TVs. So it's become a thing. Now, it doesn't look like television or cable TV is going to have 4K in the near term or midterm, but we're going to see it with things like Netflix and with Amazon Prime and with these consoles. So what is going to be the thing? With color TV, it was the Disney show on Sunday nights, The Wonderful World of Disney. I think on NBC. I could be wrong.
It was The Wonderful World of Color, and yes, it was on NBC. This is why the NBC Peacock is multiple colors, because they were the first ones who had the technology, who were using the technology that could do it. So everyone who had a black and white TV only saw this Peacock in this bland set of gray, but they were told that the Peacock was in color. So it was an incredible selling point. And yes, Wonderful World of Color was one of the first color television shows.
And that, I think, prompted, because the Joneses had it, and so you went out
Exactly.
and got it. So what is going to be the Wonderful World of Color for 4K? What is the Wonderful World of 4K? Is it the games?
Nothing.
You don't predict a widespread adoption?
I stand by my previous prediction that the only reason why there will be a widespread adoption is if it gets cheap enough that it you might as well get the 4K because it's $5 more than the 1K.
So I mean, clearly it will be adopted. It's not like it's
It
a
will be
vertical. It's not like 3D. It,
it
it's
will be
you know
it
what I
will be
mean?
adopted because eventually everything will be manufactured with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you
Not
can't get a
because it's
VHS recorder anymore. You know.
right. Sure, you can. Not because anyone actually wants it. Not because anyone will actually have a use for it. Not because many people will be able to see the difference all that well.
Oh my God, I disagree with you strongly there. If you're looking at 4K content versus 1080p, it's a dramatic
I
difference even on a
I
smaller
disagree
monitor.
with you strongly there.
Oh my God, have you been to a store and seen them side by side?
That's the problem, Dan. You're looking at them side by side. If I showed you a television set and didn't tell you which one it was, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Well, to that end, I don't know. Like when I watch like a Star Trek widescreen, not um, on my 1080p, I honestly don't know if like the next generation is at 720 or 1080 or 480p. I honestly
Most
couldn't tell you.
most people can't. You could see the difference between 480 and 720, and maybe some people could see the difference between 720 and 1080. But beyond that, it really starts getting really, really difficult to see the difference.
You can see with text, like Fox News Channel, I think has always, unless they recently switched, they've historically been 720p. That was a decision they made when they went to HD. Whereas CNN is 1080p, and the rationale was that the I forget why. There's an actual long article, I think, on Wikipedia about this or somewhere why Fox News Channel went 720 when everyone else went 1080, and the thinking was that that was superior in some way. But if you look at the logo, the Fox News Channel logo on the bottom of the screen that's spinning around and stuff, and look at the CNN logo, there is a dramatic difference if you switch back and forth between the
Part
two
of the
channels.
I don't know if this is true, but part of the reason I wouldn't be surprised is it meant that they had additional bandwidth available for other content. So instead of wasting the bandwidth on what was going to be an incredibly marginal difference, they could get a whole other channel, which meant twice as much advertising.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the entire Fox thing, like your local Fox TV station when they run the network programming, the Fox Sports, Fox Business Channel. I think it's all the Fox stuff is 720. At least it was up to like a year ago, but you can tell with the text. If you want to see, go to Fox News Channel or Fox Business Channel and then CNN and look at the logo spinning, and then you'll kind of notice the difference in the whole thing. But it's not like comparing 320p to 4K. I mean, it's not a dramatic difference, but it's a difference. Okay, so the Android TV console versus the 4K Android television sets. What's
Yeah,
the
well,
deal there?
here's the other catch with that. Apparently, Sony's implementation of Android TV, first of all, it's not on the low end devices. So the $600 Sony 4K TV is not going to have Android TV yet, whereas the $2,000 to $6,000 one will.
What is the
Honestly,
advantage of getting it built into a I would think you're better off getting a console with an HDMI or whatever they're using for 4K. Is it HDMI still? Because you can
Yeah.
easily upgrade that. I would think that the television set is going to outlast whatever technology was in the Android TV application, unless it could be
Well, here's
upgraded.
the thing. No, it could be upgraded. This is, at least Google is promising, no, honest, this time we're not going to fuck our consumers over, and we're actually going to support hardware for, more than a couple of months. I'm looking at you, Google.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and what you're referencing is some of the apps, the YouTube apps, right? On some of the older like Vizio
No,
TVs.
I'm not referencing the YouTube app. I'm referencing the operating system. Because in the past, Google has had has stated, sometimes after the fact, an 18-month policy. So that your phone is obsolete at 18 months. And that they'll, won't necessarily support upgrades after that time. Well, that better not be true when it comes to these TVs.
Yeah, I can see that with the phone because it's still going to work. It's just you might not have you may not have had Google Now or whatever it is, right? But your phone still functions.
Don't give me that bullshit, Dan. Yes, it'll still work, but here's the thing. I mean, there are some phones that are stuck on Jelly Bean that have security vulnerabilities because Google doesn't want to do anything with it. Okay, this is a major problem in Android. A major, major problem in Android. And if they don't address it up front with Android TV, they're just asking for a world of hurt. Again.
Yeah, I don't understand. Just like with the Apple Watch, the $10,000 version, who in their right mind? And we discussed this at length, but
We discussed this. So the YouTube issue, it's a real and legitimate issue, but this is what these operating systems, this is what you going to Android TV is supposed to encourage. It means that you'll be able to put on replacement apps instead of saying, oh, well, nobody's developing for this, so the one programmer we had that knew how to program for this left. So we can't upgrade.
yeah. So and the YouTube thing we're referencing is that some of the older television sets, like a Samsung or Vizio, I forget, I think both of those brands, it's not that you don't have the newest cool version of the YouTube app in your smart TV. It
Which
actually wouldn't work.
It
actually wouldn't work. You would stop having the functionality. They would stop supporting it. So is it in the past, Alan, once they had those television sets that had the built-in DVD player, right? It was one component. And I always told people, don't buy that. Buy a television set and buy a DVD player. That way, if your DVD player breaks or the tray gets smashed, or is it the same thing here? Is it safe to buy a 4K TV with Android built in, or should you spend a fewer dollars and get a console, or plan to get a console in the future?
Here's the thing. Right now, every TV that's out there is a smart TV. It all boils down to what is that smart TV running on. And it's either running on some homebrew, some kludged together system that the TV manufacturer has built, or it's running on Android TV. So if you've got a choice between the two, for the same price, go with the Android TV one, because that at least has a chance of being supported.
All right, just to clarify.
Not a very good chance, but a chance.
Just to clarify, if you're recommending that if I have to choose between the Android TV version or the kludgy one thrown together by intoxicated Vizio engineers, I should consider the Android one.
Right.
Is there like a version number? Like with phones, you can get Kit Kat or you can get Lollipop or Jelly Bean. Is there a similar thing that the consumer, that Joe Six-Pack can go into a store and say, oh, I don't want that version?
Right now, you don't have much of a choice. There are 2 devices out there, 3 devices that have Android TV, plus 3 consoles, and this is the first TV that's going to be supporting it.
But the Best Buy kid told me this was the latest thing, so I was safe to buy it, right? Oh my God. I think so. Back to my initial question. For color television, it was that Disney show, The Wonderful World of Color. Is there, if there's a killer app that causes people to do you think it's going to be content like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black, or is it going to be and I would imagine HBO is probably going to do something with their HBO Now and to do 4K, or is it going to be games? Because imagine
you're
games in
obsessing about
4K.
this. It will be one of two. It will be 2 things. 1, it will be games. 2, it will be sports.
Okay. Yeah, sports. People will. That is the thing that's keeping cable television alive, in my opinion. ESPN and sports in general.
I mean, honestly, I don't think it's going to be I don't think 4K is going to be dramatically compelling.
And I'll just, on sports real quick, and I'm not a sports guy, but Jason Salas would appreciate this. I don't know if you're a golf fan at all, but there was a 15-year-old kid who qualified for the U.S. Open, and it was hilarious. He was a really nice kid from Texas, and he was so small he couldn't see the pin at one shot, and so he hit the ball and then immediately raced to the side of the fairway so he could see where his ball was landing. It was just great. He didn't make the first cut, but he made it through 2 days playing with his hero, who ended up winning. So good for him. It's always neat to see the little kids who were prodigies and the next Tiger Woods or what have you. His name is Cole Hammer. He said the kids at school call him Hammer Time, and he wasn't even born when MC Hammer had that hit. So good for him. Okay, next, Google releases a tool. This is great. Google releases a tool to help you pick the perfect Android phone, while Apple urges you to recycle your Android phone after you switch to iOS. I just thought these two stories were meant for each other. So what do you think about the Android phone thing and the fact that we need a tool to pick the best one? Doesn't that kind of smack you in the face about fragmentation?
No.
Okay, so what do you think of this tool?
Well, I tried using it for no. Let's dispel your myth here.
My myth.
Your myth here of one phone is good for everybody. That everybody needs these massive tablets.
I'm backing down on the phablet thing. I'm not a big phablet fan.
But you mean you don't endorse the official Apple size for smartphones?
I have, just to clarify here, I've got a Galaxy Note 2.
Dan, answer the question.
What was your question?
You don't endorse the official Apple size for smartphones?
I probably would. I have an iPhone, an iPad, a Nexus tablet, and a Samsung Galaxy phone. So I have multiple size devices. I actually, my iPhone is an iPhone 6, not the Plus, the 6. And I specifically went with that because it was smaller than my Note 2, which was too big. Because if I want a tablet, I'll get a freaking tablet. I don't want to walk around with it. Are you happy to see me, or is that a phone?
So you're saying that choosing the right size is important.
Size matters.
Size matters. So maybe a tool to help you pick the phone based on the size would be good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next story.
Should you recycle your Android phone? Oh my God. Alan and I think you should not.
No, I'm recycling my Android phone.
You should wait till Earth Day and throw it in the backyard.
No, I mean,
with a lit candle of sorts.
I recently gave away my Galaxy Nexus to somebody who could use it. As I mentioned earlier on the show, I'm going to be giving my Asus Zenfone to my father. I strongly encourage you to recycle your Android phones. There are lots of poor souls who have only experience with Blackberries and Apple devices that need to learn why Android is a decent alternative.
All right. There you go. Okay, Adobe ports some Creative Cloud apps to Android. Ordinarily, this isn't a story. I mean,
it isn't a story.
But they said it took them so long because of the fragmentation. They went to iOS first. Are we still seeing that where it's easier?
No. Well, let's put it this way. We had seen a change recently. We had seen more and more developers moving to Android first because the Android tools had gotten better, and because of Apple fragmentation. And Android was supporting that a lot better than Apple was. We're seeing it slowly shift back to Apple now that Apple's has improved their tool set over Objective-C. Objective-C was a major pain point for a lot of developers, and Swift is much better.
And speaking of Swift.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that.
On Friday, we'll discuss it. I
have to wonder why so few other people have made that connection.
So Taylor Swift versus Apple. This is really interesting. Taylor Swift, of course, is, I guess, arguably the top pop star right now. Probably not arguably. I think she is from sales. And it was really interesting. So she famously said she was going to pull her catalog from Spotify because Spotify had a free tier where you could listen to music without paying the artists, or without paying Spotify, and then the artist would not get paid for that, or would get barely paid for that. And so she pulled her catalog from there, and Spotify, the numbers recently came out, they are huge, way bigger than anybody else. and now she this was all on Father's Day, yesterday. This all this began and ended on Father's Day. In the morning, Taylor Swift posted, "Dear Apple, love Taylor," and said that she was disappointed and disillusioned or outraged or something like that that Apple was going to not pay artists for the 90-day period when you could try out Apple Music, which is their competitor to Spotify, their streaming service, which will be available on iOS and OS X devices and on Android devices, which was another surprise. And then she said the key line that resonated was, "We don't ask you for free iPhones. Don't ask us take our music and not compensate us for it." And she had a point. And she said, look, she's rich. She doesn't need the money, but she's looking out for the up-and-coming artists. And Gene Simmons from Kiss, who has retweeted or tweeted to me before, which makes me a towering heroic figure, because like one of my childhood heroes, Gene Simmons from Kiss, knew I existed for like 1 second. But he has come out about lamenting the demise of the big record labels that would advance money, and and I have mixed emotions on that. He said like there won't be another Elvis or the Beatles, but I have no problem with there being lots of great regional acts. I mean, right now in the music industry, historically we've had Budweiser and No Small Brews, and then you go to Germany and every county has their own beer, and so you can go and you can like be a tourist and you can discover this wonderful thing that is only a regional thing. So what if Elvis were really big, the biggest thing in Memphis and Tennessee in general, but he wasn't a worldwide phenomenon, and you could fly to Liverpool and see the Beatles, and they were the biggest thing in the UK. Is that bad necessarily? It's different. So yeah, they would manufacture these bubblegum pop acts, and they would be on every single station throughout the country. And if you like big box retail, you love America's music industry. And I get that. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but if there's a bunch of like regional hits and smaller hits on YouTube and all these, it's a different paradigm. And I guess the legacy guys are all freaked out about it. But I think Taylor had a point. If Apple is going to give away a 90-day period and not and they caved the same day and said they would pay them on a per stream basis rather than a per download basis or something like that. So it's presumably a reduced compensation thing. And the guy from Apple called Taylor Swift and personally talked to her after she posted that. And and then Taylor posted a thing saying, "Oh, victory is mine, and Alan will appreciate this reference. Bring me the finest croissants and bagels in all the land." That's a Josh Lyman reference. But anyway, so what's your take on this? We'll talk about this Friday, I'm sure.
Do we have to? Seems like we've talked about it enough now.
I like to hear myself talk.
No.
I only get a few intro words, and then I throw it to Alan. Then I go pee, bake a
You can
cake.
talk as much as you want, Dan. Let the rest of us, go do something with our Friday and
No, you never get. How come Alan never gets to pee? This is unfair. Go ahead, Alan.
What do I think of it? I think this is there's multiple sides to this. On one hand, she's just looking out for the smaller acts. Well, honestly, if she was really looking out for the smaller acts, she'd stay off Apple. Because that's the only way that the smaller acts are going to get discovered, is if all of the big acts aren't there. And there's been some studies to indicate that that's true. So I think it's great that she's sticking up for the smaller acts to make sure that they get paid. I think that's great. I encourage artists to get paid for their work. On the other hand, the biggest thing that she could do is to not show up at all.
I think that's an unfair dig, a bum rap.
Sorry, Dan. It's not meant as a dig. There are studies that indicate that's how it would work.
But okay, maybe that's the case then. Far be it from me to disagree with the scientific study. But I look at it like I can't remember Lars, the Metallica guy who publicly came out against Napster, waged a war against Napster, the original iteration of Napster, that was sharing music, right? And he said you're stealing, and they got some bad publicity from it, from these folks who think you should be allowed to steal copyrighted material and give it away illegally. So he took some heat for that from some of their fans. And I said, I take Taylor at her word when she says she's set for life. You know, what's the difference between 1 billion and
Don't
3
get me
billion?
wrong. I take her at her word that she is, that she honestly believes that what she's doing is right for the industry as a whole. I don't think she's, doing this with a secret agenda. I just think there is some indication that the biggest thing that big pop stars can do for little pop stars is to not do anything, as in not release new music.
I mean, that's obviously not something she's probably contemplating.
No, and I wouldn't expect her to.
She's not going to
But-
pull a Celine Dion or Garth Brooks and disappear for 15 years and make a comeback. But she is the closest thing to a Madonna, Elvis, the Beatles, Michael Jackson, the Rolling Stones of 2015.
But
And,
as an
and she
example,
said that a
look at
lot
what-
of people are whispering to her in parties, "Man, this really sucks. This deal. What if I become a one-hit wonder? I'm an up-and-comer, and my song just starts to peak right at the beginning of this Apple Music thing, and then I shoot my wad and get all my potential sales would have occurred during that 90-day period." And then
No,
finally,
I think it's
when it's over, I get that, and they're like, if I say something, Apple will say, "Screw you." But Taylor's like, you know what? They can't say screw you to me. She's the biggest thing out there. And so she is taking the hit for all the people who are afraid to say something. That's where I say, take her at a word in that context. In that,
and I do too. I'm not
thing.
criticizing that at all.
What if Amazon had 90 days free O'Reilly books right when your book peaked, And
You will remember that my book was released the day before they started their 50% off promotion for ebooks.
Okay, so you did get hit. You literally can empathize with this phenomenon.
No, I made
did,
money that week.
but did your part of something versus all or nothing? Did you get, if you look at like a cycle of your book, was there like a sudden burst, or has it been steady, or what? I would imagine now it's less than initially.
There have been two bursts. The day the ebook was the week the ebook was released, or sorry, the month the ebook was released, and the month that the bound copy was released.
Okay. So I think music's like that. You get on the Tonight Show and you have a couple months of, you get like a 3-day gigantic peak, and then anyway. Anything else big coming up Friday?
Maybe Friday we're
the
nearing
weekend.
a certain anniversary.
Oh yeah, maybe, yeah, to be announced. We'll see. All right, well, thank you all for watching. We have 2 programs each month. We do this program. Our other program is called Google Plus Week, which is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, where we discuss tech news. That's Google Plus Week, the longest running show on Google Plus and YouTube Live stuff. That's Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And this program is Our Android Week, which is Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, Our Android Week. Thank you for watching. Till next time, have a great Android week. We'll talk to you later.